Hi, welcome back to DIY Voter Postcarding. I believe it's episode 6, Easy Printing 2. Now, if you just discovered us for the first time and you've never done postcarding, it sounds like fun. Sounds like a great way to contribute. Go to postcardstovoters.org, learn about it, sign up for an account, and then join us. You can join at any episode, but it might be nice to start with episode 1. There's another group called Markers for Democracy in the credits, and they have started Postcards for Democracy. A lot more options these days. So what are we doing today? We're getting our aprons because the ink is for real. It's washable, but it is strong ink. It's not like children's art washable, if you get what I mean. We're going to have a little foam, cut a piece, draw some lines on it, get some ink, roll it out, and off we go. Now, what am I hearing? Oh no! I can hear the voices out there. Oh, you said this was going to be easy, and now you're saying we have to draw our own design? I can feel the anxiety rising. Okay, take a deep breath. Calm yourself down. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Just cut a rectangle and draw some simple lines. By lines, I mean lines like Zentangle, little circle. You're ready to go. Stars aren't that easy. Maybe some waves for a blue wave. Or think about, remember our thumbprints? Just a simple fish with some waves. And then your slogan, of course, is just keep voting. A bird singing for democracy. Another thing you can do is download some clip art from the internet if you really want to trace, but make sure it's something very simple. I'll show you how to trace through onto your foam. And something I'm not going to show that you can try is just cut some shapes and glue them onto another piece of foam and roll your ink on that. It will go onto the background, but you'll see your design. And it'll be fun, and this is because what? We experiment, we test, and we practice. Lots of options out there. Okay, I know you're ready. I can hear the ideas percolating, and so let's look at our supplies and get started. There are so many supplies for this project that I thought I would divide them. These are some of the supplies for making, and then I'll show you the actual inking, printing supplies. Now, don't laugh. I cut my thumb this morning. It had nothing to do with printmaking. Got my nails done, and then I did a good job. All right, the first thing is some kind of foam. It could be from an egg carton. These said corn on the cob, some kind of vegetables, of course. You don't want one from meat. You need scissors to cut them and to even them out, probably an X-Acto knife. If you are going to use an image that you already drew or that you printed on the computer, you're going to trace through, you want a sharp pencil or else a ballpoint pen. Turns out I actually used a ballpoint pen. Now for drawing in the foam, you actually want a slightly dull pencil. I'll get into that. But a colored pencil, because it's polymer, it's really firm and you can shape the point the way you want. So I'm going to have several here. You need a metal ruler for cutting the good edges, a cutting mat like these. This is a small one, inexpensive. And now, because we're dealing with such small items that we're printing, I like to tape them down onto my mat. And so it's nice to have them holding still. And don't forget a sharpener of some kind. Okay, here are some of the inking supplies. This is bench. It comes, show you the shape. Here we go. What it does is it helps grip the table for if you're doing carving. And it grabs onto your plate, your block. If you're carving, it keeps it from slipping. But people also use it for inking. So if you're going to get into our next chapter, which is actual block carving, you might want one of these. I found that the inking, I've used it for years, but it does kind of resist and make little spackly marks. And so I'm going to use, for inking, I'm going to use my butcher tray. Even though the edges make, can block the handles of your rollers, I really found that it was making smoother. The cheapest thing is if you've got a piece of glass, please put tape on the edges. You don't want to be like this. Or a ceramic tile. If you're really sure it's flat, you can use plastic, give it a try, but something really smooth, very hard is best for rolling that ink. These, again, are the soft rollers. Never, ever, ever store them face down. Always keep them this way because they are soft and they will sag and warp, and then you'll never get a good print ever again. Of course, you're going to want a bucket of water. If you want to mix colors, you might want a simple artist's knife. Not too sharp. The first one I got was really too sharp. You can get a plastic one. And these are the Speedball inks. I'm just going to use turquoise and magenta. We're into CMYK. We know what really mixes the nicest is not standard red and standard blue. I brought a little white in case I feel like lightening. And I looked up reviews about what options there are for ink. Because when I've used Sax ink or Blick ink, I found that they really separated. They weren't as good as the Speedball ink. So I found this expensive brand, Schminky blend, and I got the cyan and the magenta, and they are nice. And if we're only going to print these tiny images, these two little tubes are going to last plenty long. So I just wanted to try them. So these are what you're going to use for inking. This is what I'm talking about if you have an image. Of course, this is complicated and I don't have something simple from the internet. You're going to have to think it through yourself. You could get a little bee, stars. This was when we were doing use the superpower of your vote with abortion rights. And so I did a little sketch of Wonder Woman and the Black Panther and tried to show their hands going up holding ballots. And I knew that's not something you're going to sketch on a chunk of black foam. So I used just thin computer papers and pressed hard enough with a ballpoint pen, and it showed enough through there that then I could go ahead and make my image. Think of something that you can do. A small panel and print it twice and then write the word vote in between, and there you've got your card. Also, remember that letters go backwards. Everything is reversed in many forms of printmaking. So by using the word vote, of course, we only have one backwards letter. I'll back up here and show you starting from scratch. You have to cut and get as flat a panel as you can. The curve, you've got to be sure you're not starting up here on the curve. You're not going to do something large. So just cut yourself a basic rough shape at first. All right, so it's quite rough. That's okay. Got my little tape loops, right? Line it up so that everything's off one of your lines as well as you can, so that when you're cutting, you can line it up on one of your lines. Yep. Yeah, because I did put a lot of tape, it's getting in the way, so I need to. Now here it didn't work out, so I am going to move it over. And there we go. If you're going to start from scratch, which I'm not because it'll take too long. These I cut a little more to shape because that's going to be the fun thing with this foam is you really have a lot of flexibility for the shape. You can cut the easy cut blocks also, but this is fun. All right, now we get into the pencil. Getting the pencil exactly right. This pencil is way too sharp. You don't want to scratch and poke into the foam. That's the limit with the foam, is you are going to get pretty bold lines. Both of these are a little bit sharp, but these have a longer length. I've been using this a while and see how much shorter that is. So I would need to sharpen it. Sharpen it up a bit. Then use some scrap paper and draw around and around to make your point nice and curved. Okay, so I had these two stars with this filling. Now there's a tradition with woodblock prints. We don't want the roller to fall into empty space, so we don't have too much carved down space, but we also don't have the roller just rolling playing along big solid areas. Well, we don't have to follow that rule with this foam because a lot of it is going to be solid. You just can't do a lot of detailed lines. So you just start simple and keep going. It's more like you're making yourself a pathway. You're pushing the foam. You're not really carving the foam. One more. And you can sketch. You can sketch lightly with your pencil. It's not going to interfere with your inking. There's one ready to go. This one's already ready to go. Just some flowers. I ended up with 4-sided flower, but I did make a little interior. Again, it's certainly fine to just do something decorative. I'll show you. These are ones I copied from something or other. Now this is kind of a famous mailbox I did. I could actually cut the foam into almost a mailbox shape. Now I decided not to make the letters too thick. I'm thickening them up here a bit. Of course, I had to sketch several times to make room for the E. So here we go. Backwards E isn't that hard. Push, push into the foam. So when I flip this over to print, it's going to have the little star on the left, the word vote, and then I'll have room on my card to write stuff. All right, that's the carving. We're ready to ink. So I've got my highly reflective butcher tray. I've got a small roller. These even come smaller. I can't find my really small one today. And so we only need a little bit of ink for a little bunker like this. I tend to forget and I squeeze out what I'm used to. Now, you don't think we're going to need a broad area, but it's always good to pick up your roller and move it in more than one direction. Pick it up so that you're not pushing just continuously back and forth. That's another thing that could warp your roller. Certainly it will get the ink on in an irregular way. What's the perfect thickness? This is why we teach ourselves in some art forms. You only can tell by the sound and by the results, ultimately. I feel like it was a little too thick. Now the downside of using these small pieces is you're going to roll off onto the edge. And the fact that we've taped it down and we're going to lay the paper on top has a lot of plus sides, but it also can mean you're going to get it over here and you've got to have your wet paper towel ready to clean that up. Where am I going to want to line it up? Do I want it all the way? All right, gently hold with one hand while you rub with the other hand. I found gentle rubbing with the pads of your fingers makes a huge difference. And then I'm keeping it in place and slowly peeling it up to see if I like it. Okay, I think I like it. Flip it over. Oh. There, that's what I was planning. And line up the card this way. Go a little bit better this time. We actually want it close to the halfway mark. These reversals can mess with your brain. There, that's how we want it. So we have the room to write the dates here. Okay, here we're going to get a little tricky. I'm refreshing my cyan. I've lined these up to fit into the two corners of the large side of the card. Now watch. At the other end, I have a little drop of magenta, and I have another roller. How about that? Oopsie. We're professionals, baby. Is your 7th grade art class nightmare coming back to you now? This is why I chose these two colors. And I have yet another roller. Now this roller is a little small for the design I chose, so our little rainbow will be horizontal, and I'm going to roll straight. And there you go, lovely rainbow tones. This is a copy I printed recently. You can see I was losing detail in the eyes. I think when I originally did it, I got some good prints out of it, but I just wanted you to see how it turned out. Here's the infamous mailbox. I think I mixed the ink with a little white to get a nicer tone. This is all added by hand, but then I've printed them at Vistaprint. I'm using them a lot. My one piece of white foam I had a little trouble with. I did a lot with the idea of a blue wave. Of course, it was across the full back of the card. You can always do a smaller one on the half back of the card. But I had a lot of fun with it. This is a different one. I had a couple of different designs. Here's how the white one came out. Can print it on white. I printed it on different shades of blue. So I did some that were just plain and added the effect once I printed it. You don't always have to pre-draw the lines. The wave won't be blue without you. The first caller who guesses what movie doesn't win a darn thing. So here's a really large one, and I was determined to print little baby cauliflowers to get the effect of Hokusai's foaming wave, and I did. Rolled in a blue wave. This is just some of the possible ideas you can have using foam as a printing block for primitive printing. Remember, you can also write lines with glue. Ink that up and roll it. You can glue kite string down. Rolled out that ink and we had a blast. Have lots of fun. Keep your ideas simple and plan your colors, plan your reversals, and printmaking can be lots of fun. Even with this foam, you can print a lot of images and stockpile plenty of cards to have fun with. So printing with the turquoise in the speedball ink looked a lot greener than I remembered. This is the Schmidt ink, the cyan and magenta. Looking at my screen, it looks a lot darker. Sorry about that. But I got a beautiful violet, trust me. And I put here this speedball regular blue. Maybe things have changed over the years because it's not a royal blue. It actually looks closer to a cyan, and the turquoise looks more green. But I wanted you to see the difference. I made a quickie little bigger rainbow and put a few headlines on, and even sketching with my pencil, they didn't get quite center. That happens sometimes. We always need to experiment and test and practice. But anyway, I think that you will come up with some very simple ideas and have a lot of fun and make it your own. So what do you think? Are you ready to start? It's a little more complicated, but that is what makes it fun. And the foam can be used a lot. I mean, it's not forever. You can tear it, but you can use it a lot of times. Just clean it carefully. You can cut it as a border. You can put more than one on a postcard. There's so much you can do. Well, what are we going to do next? We're going to actually carve. I thought, why not? We've gone this far. Let's use some easy cut linoleum. It's almost like cutting into an eraser, so there won't be any bleeding like you had in school, right? And we'll be able to transfer a design onto our block, and we're just really going to be artists after all this time, right? Now, not only do we experiment, test, and practice, but we reflect. Reflecting on our little session, I would say I would still want to add some white to the colors. It makes them pop a little more, especially that purple. It's a good purple, but it's kind of dark. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed yourself and that you will send me your comments, questions, and certainly your cards. I want to see your cards. It can take a while to get set up for something like this, but you can stockpile so many cards you'll be ready for the election. And don't forget the credits, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.